Hello and welcome to State Matters. I'm your host, Matt Muratore. My special guest today joined the Massachusetts Department of Conservation and Recreation, commonly known as DCR, in 2004 as the Director of State Parks and Recreation. She is now the Deputy Commissioner and Resource Stewardship. Please welcome Priscilla Geigis. Well, welcome again to the show. It's a real honor to have you here, Priscilla.
My pleasure.
We'd like to start the show with talking about who our guests are, and you've got a real fascinating background, so tell us who you are.
Who am I?
Yeah.
Well, I'm a park lover, and I was bitten by parks at a very young age. I went camping and hiking across the country with my parents. They always took the month of August off. My mom was a school teacher, my father a minister, and we would just take our tent trailer and we would go camping and hiking. And I saw incredible
Massachusetts?
Throughout the entire country. We
right?
even drove the
Wow.
Alaska
Wow.
Highway to go up to parks there. So I saw some of the major national parks. By the time I was 12, I had seen Yellowstone and Yosemite and Grand Canyon and Mesa Verde, and we saw state parks in between. So I was really bitten by the bug early, and when the opportunity came up to join the new Department of Conservation and Recreation, when it was created,
When was it created?
It was created in 2003.
Okay,
So
okay.
I joined DCR as the State Parks Director in 2004,
right.
and I've been there ever since. And a couple of years ago, I was asked to be the Deputy Commissioner for Conservation and Resource Stewardship, which is a new position, and it really combines my love for the conservation and also the recreation that we do. It's a wonderful balance and that shared stewardship that we have. So I had that great background as a kid, and then I went to college and I went to law school. I studied environmental law. I went to Northeastern Law School, and I had some great, fellow alum. So I had, and as you know, Northeastern has wonderful internships. So I was able to go to Alaska for an internship in Washington, D.C. And then my last internship was with the state, was with the Department of Fisheries, Wildlife, and Environmental Law Enforcement, which it was called at that time. And so I worked there for 7 years. And then I worked for the Executive Office of Environmental Affairs, and I was head of their Community Preservation Initiative with Secretary Bob Duran. I was there for 5 years, and then when this position came up to be the Parks Director in 2004, I jumped at that chance. I applied for the position, and I was honored to be selected and have been with the agency ever since. And we have incredible people that work at DCR, and we get to do exciting projects like the one that we did today.
Like the one we're going to talk about, yeah,
right.
yeah. You've also got a couple of really distinguished awards, too. The Fran Manella Award from Clemson University.
Fran Manella, right. Yeah. She was the first female national parks director, and so Clemson University has named an award for her, and so that's given every couple of years to a woman that has made some distinction in parks and preservation, so I was honored to be able to accept that.
That's terrific. That's terrific. Congratulations.
Thank you.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
So I was also doing some research too, found out that there's within DCR, there are 87 waterfront areas. There are 30 campgrounds.
Right.
37 swimming pools. And over 100 playgrounds and athletic fields.
You've done your homework.
That's an awful lot. Well, from helping your staff.
In all of that,
that's an awful lot.
It is a lot. We have a tremendous portfolio. So we are the 9th largest park system and the 6th smallest state. So we manage 450,000 acres from the Boston Harbor Islands all the way out to the Berkshires. And we have incredible places that people can go and they can recreate, whether it's at one of our pools or our spray decks or at one of our ocean beaches. And the great thing about Massachusetts is you can be on the coast and swim in the ocean, or you can be in one of our interior lakes. You can be in the forest. You know, in Japan they call it forest bathing, and I call it just kind of going out into the forest and just walking on a trail and just being enveloped by that forest and get that kind of experience. You can climb a mountain, you can climb Great Blue Hills. We just have it all in Massachusetts. And so with that, there's a lot to manage, and we have extremely dedicated employees that help us manage that very large system. So you name all those statistics, and we also have our forestry program, so we manage over 350,000 acres of forest land on our property
And
alone.
I think in Plymouth, Miles Standish is probably one of the bigger ones.
Oh, yes,
Yeah,
absolutely, yeah, and that's, and so we're managing that. We're also helping private landowners manage their forests. Something that people might not know in terms of our agency, we also operate and manage the Quabbin Reservoir and the whole reservoir system that provides the source water from MWRA, that 2.5 million people are serviced by that. So that's a major function as well. We have a whole division of water supply protection. We have a dam maintenance and safety program. Our engineering program does things like the project that we're going to talk about a little bit later, and projects all over the state. So we really have, the breadth, in addition to our park operations. We have forest fire control, and I mentioned our forestry. So we have a whole diversity of staff that manage that incredible portfolio that we have.
I was just down the one in Miles Standish Forest the other day talking to Mike Marquardt, actually.
Oh, right,
about
yes,
that.
from our forest fire control.
Yeah, because they had the pre-burn a week before, so
Right,
see how it went
right.
and all that, yeah.
And that's really important. We do have to manage our forests, and so
Mm-hmm.
that means taking care of hazardous trees. That means, inoculating them from disease, and it also means the prescribed burn,
Right.
as you witnessed, because that's really important for, our habitat protection and fuels mitigation. So that's an important component, and they also help out our communities as well,
Right,
and they
right.
work with local
Right,
fire officials.
Let's, before we get into your specific area, DCR is very fascinating to me because it's so complex in so many areas. Can you
It
explain
is.
the structure of DCR?
Sure. So we have
As best you can.
in terms of the structure from the governor. So
Yeah.
the governor
Yep.
is then has his cabinet, and the Secretary of Energy and Environmental Affairs is within his
And
cabinet.
that's Matt Beaton.
And that's Matt
And
Beaton.
you fall under that.
And then
DCR.
we have, our agency falls within that secretariat. And so our commissioner, Leo Roy, is in charge of our entire agency. And so within that, we have two major divisions, the Park Operations Division and then the Water Supply Protection Division. And then we also have several bureaus that actually service those divisions. So we have our engineering, our design and project management, we have a legal office, external affairs, we have our visitor services, which does our interpretation and our programs that we have. Who am I missing? I mentioned our forestry and fire control, and our cultural resources and resource protection. So that's land acquisition, cultural resources preservation, and the resource management that we do. So it's a complex agency.
Yeah,
We have a
yeah.
variety of roles, but that's what it takes to run all of the DCR properties that we
yeah.
have.
Well, let's discuss your specific department or roles that you're talking about. Let's talk about that a little bit more specifically.
Sure.
So tell us about your division and what you do, and let's get into what's happening at Pilgrim Memorial Park
Okay.
here in Plymouth.
Sure.
So let me preface by, first of all, thank you and Commissioner Roy and everyone else for what you're doing at Pilgrim Memorial Park, where folks who are watching that don't know that name, it's the waterfront of Plymouth, where the rock is.
Right.
And DCR has control of that property and has for years. And it's going to be a $3 million project that's going to be happening there.
That's right.
Taking place starting this week.
Right.
As we're taping this week. And we just did a groundbreaking ceremony there this morning. And so let's talk about your division and how we got up to this point and what's going to happen here.
Sure. So, we are the Department of Conservation and Recreation, and the Commissioner mentioned at the event today we have a very special anniversary that we're celebrating. In fact, the big day is really this weekend. So June 3rd, 1893 is when our park system established its first state park, Beaver Brook State Reservation in Belmont and Waltham. And it was the establishment of the Parks Commission, this regional system of parks, the first in the nation. And so that's one of our predecessor agencies for DCR, so we have a big celebration. And you're wearing your wonderful pin
Yes, I
that the
love it.
Commissioner gave you.
125 years,
Exactly, and the significance of that is it's 125 years of stewardship. So as I mentioned, DCR, we are, the parks and the forests and the beaches, they all belong to all of us. we are the agency that gets to manage them and to really promote and foster shared stewardship. But they really belong to all of us. And I always say, you know, everyone has a role to play in preserving and enhancing all of the properties that we have, and whether those are natural, cultural, or historic resources. And Plymouth certainly has done their part in terms of shared stewardship, because you have this wonderful portfolio just in Plymouth alone of the wonderful properties that we have. So Commissioner Roy really felt that with the Department of Conservation and Recreation, that we were really known a lot for the recreation and the wonderful activities, whether it's swimming or biking or hiking or camping, in all the great places that we had. But we were not as well known for our conservation arm. And so part of my job is to really make sure that as part of our mission, it's to preserve, protect, and promote our natural, cultural, and recreational resources for the well-being of all. So I'm really big into that promotion and make sure that people understand that not only do we manage those incredible properties, but there's a lot of behind-the-scenes work that needs to take place as well. And Plymouth certainly is kind of a wonderful palette to be able to see that. So we have this preservation mission as part of our conservation mission. And you know, so what we're doing here at Plymouth is really letting people see that preservation and conservation mission. Do you want me to get into the project a little bit at all?
Yeah, so I was going to say, so let's talk about the work that's going to happen at Pilgrim Memorial Park. It starts, as I said, it's going to start this week. We're taping here on May 29th.
Right.
And it's going to go probably till Thanksgiving.
Right, exactly.
Yeah.
It's going to be a long project, and I know that, I'll say right up front, I know that there are going to be some impacts to our visitors, and we've worked very closely with you and the town to be able to try to minimize that.
But I have to say, too, I think you folks have done a really good job of reaching out to the community, to the real stakeholders in the community over the winter and the fall. Because there is, I mean, that's our economic engine, as Senator DiMacedo said this morning.
Right.
And there's going to be a lot of interruptions on the waterfront for things like the 4th of July parade, the Thanksgiving Day parade, the concerts on the water. I mean, there's a lot that goes on down there all spring, summer, and fall long. But you've been able to reach out, work with everyone. And from what I understand, all these things, the 4th of July parade, the Thanksgiving parade, the concerts, they're still going to go on.
Right.
And you folks have been great working around them. Talk about that process first and what
well,
led you to
I'll tell you,
that.
I mean, you know, this is America's hometown, right? And so this is a really exciting time with 2020 coming up, and we've done a lot of restoration work here, even preceding the work that we're doing now. So we had done work on Forefathers Monument, which is really part of all Pilgrim Memorial as well, which is an incredible landmark that we have here. We also had done some work on the Rock, and actually, you can actually see the work that we've done on the Rock today, because the sand has really been washed away. But you can see that we've actually fortified the Rock. We fixed the crack, and we fortified that rock and the portico. So the work that we're doing now, as you mentioned, it's a $3 million project.
Started out to be $2 million, yeah.
Well, and $2 million alone is really in the landscaping, but that's something that people have talked about for a number of years, and you rattled off a number of ways that the community uses that space, and so we really want to make sure that we give that grass area the time that it needs to actually mature, you know, to seed that and to really make that secure. So as you said, it's going to go until November, but it's exciting. So on the south lawn, we're going to start there, and we're going to be refurbishing the.
That's where the amphitheater is, right?
Exactly, exactly. Okay. So we're going to be refurbishing the benches. We're going to be repaving and moving that walkway about 6 feet into the park. We're going to be redoing that turnaround, and then planting the grass. And so while that is going on, we're then going to be moving over to the portico, and we're going to be doing some repointing and masonry work, and we're going to be putting those medallions in the railings, that fencing that we have, and so we'll be fixing that. We'll also be doing the stairs at Cole Hill. You've probably seen that some of those stairs need to be redone, so we'll be doing that as well. And then we'll also be moving over to the North Park as well, and be doing that turnaround and
where the Mayflower usually is, right?
And the pathways, right?
Yeah.
So, you know, Plymouth Plantation, the Mayflower, the Rock, they will be accessible while we're doing that work. As we said, we're going to really try to minimize the impacts. The stairs at Cole Hill will also be accessible until the time that we actually start on that bottom portion of the stairs. The park up at the top of Coles Hill, where we've done a lot of renovation work, we've done the preservation of the sarcophagus, we've restored those bronze plaques. We're going to be doing some work up there, that, you know, paving work. We're going to be planting a linden tree, and we're also going to fix the lamp post that is up at the top of Coles Hill. So Wendy Pearl, who is our project manager and our preservation planner, said that that is absolutely going to be done. So
That's great.
Which will be really great. So it's going to look spectacular when it's done, and we're really excited to be able to do that.
So we talked about the $2 million was going to be in the landscaper, but then after
Right.
these storms of this past March,
Right.
it looked like another $1 million needed to be added. Talk about that.
Well, you know, as I mentioned, you know, the pathway, we had already planned on moving the pathway
yeah.
in, but we have to move it in, you know, just a little bit more if you look at that, you know, where that bench is. So we're going to be fortifying that and moving those pathways in. The other thing I just wanted to mention is one of the big things of this project is accessibility. And, you know, across the street at the Pilgrim Mother, if you know, that monument has a big, large step. And so we're going to be making that accessible. So really all of the pathways, whether it was a storm damage or not, we're really going to make accessible, because we believe that this is just such an incredible resource, not just for our state, but really for the world. And we expect the world to be coming in 2020. And so we really want to make sure that people can get around. And the town certainly made some wonderful improvements with the expanded sidewalk and the way that they did that with the pebble design, you know, historic.
They did a fantastic job.
They
Yeah,
really
yeah.
did. And so we are going to extend that, and we're going to complement that, both, you know, in that area and around the North Park, and then over to the Pilgrim Mothers Memorial. So yeah, I mean, you know, things cost money, and but it's really worth it at the end. And I think it'll be a wonderful celebration in 2020. And as you said, really lasting beyond. We're not just doing this for this year. This will continue to be America's birthplace, and
I personally believe that
America's hometown. So
I personally believe that's going to be a real legacy of 2020.
It really
that
will.
Whole waterfront.
well, and as you know, Pilgrim Memorial was established in 1920 to celebrate the 300th anniversary. So, are you familiar with the musical Hamilton?
Yes.
Okay, so did you see it? So I haven't seen it yet, but
No.
but there's a song in there that says, look around, we're lucky to be alive right now. History is happening, and you know, it's happening in the greatest city in the world. And I would argue that, you know, Plymouth is the greatest town in the world, right? And history is happening again. So here we are to be able to celebrate this 400th anniversary, and working in partnership with you and the town and the people, we're able to have a wonderful display of that history there for people to enjoy.
Yeah, I'm glad you brought that up, because it is a world celebration. People, I kind of wish we never called it Plymouth 400, because a lot of people just around the state, and my colleagues alone, just think it's a Plymouth party.
Right.
But it's not. It's really celebrating the entire Commonwealth, the entire United States, but the world, because we are working with, you know, Plymouth, UK, where the Mayflower went.
Right.
I mean, they're doing a huge celebration out there for 2020, and the Mayflower left them. So people see it as an economic driver, but it is about history as well.
It is.
You know, Leiden is going to be involved as well. So it is really a world event that's going to be happening. People are coming from all over, and they're going to really focus on the Rock and that whole area that you're going to beautify.
Well, and I think that it puts a focus on preservation. So when we were talking about that earlier in terms of, you know, my role with the conservation and preservation, and that our anniversary of shared stewardship, it really does put that spotlight on the preservation. So it really takes, you know, the Rock does take work to be able to look like that for visitors to enjoy. And, you know, the Massasoit statue and the sarcophagus and you know, the Mother's Monument and Forefathers Monument. So all of that takes work behind the scenes. So that experience that visitors are having, there are many, many people behind the scenes that have made that experience for that visitor to be able to connect. And one of the best experiences that we have too down at Pilgrim Memorial is our interpretive staff. So Matt Vellameno, who's our visitor services supervisor, has a great team. And last year they actually just redid kind of the talks, and they established a 10-minute rock talk. So as you know, there's a lot of tourists that come and they can only spend a little bit of time at the rock. So we wanted to give them a story and to have them leave with knowing and making that connection to the rock. So that's what our interpreters do, and we have interpreters all over the state. They're seasonal staff, so we have them in about 65 places, and that's what their job is, to make that connection, to help people understand why that place is significant, and to also, have them leave, thinking about how that affects them, because that's really what stewardship is all about, right? We have to have people understand the resource, then appreciate the resource, and then want to protect the resource. And whether that's a forest or whether that's a statue that we have here, or a very special rock that means something to us.
Right. This is the first time I've been down there this morning to take a look at the damage that was done along, and I was amazed that where the benches are, and the people that are familiar with the benches are, there's no more area there.
Right.
So it's not going to be a wall that's going to be there, correct? It's not going to be a seawall that's going to be there.
Right. And we're still really looking at that area. So for right now, what we have in the plan is that, as you mentioned, that bench, the walkway was in front of that bench, and we had already planned on moving it back. So we are moving that back. That'll be, we'll reseed that area, and then we'll build that up a little bit more. So I mean, it's really remarkable. And also right near the portico, there was some damage that was done that in an area, and so we've actually put that back as well. Yeah, Mother Nature is pretty strong.
Wow,
right. We didn't invite her to make improvements here, to be part of the restoration. So
if folks want to see, I see that you're going to give updates on the project. You talk about that, how people can follow the progress. And
so people can, and we'll provide you with the number, but if people get on mass.gov/DCR, there is some information on getting updates. And what we do is we try to give a 2-week look ahead about the construction that we're doing. So if people really want to know about what we're doing and what's entailed, that's great, and they also know what areas might be off limits. So as we said, we're trying very hard to minimize the impact that we're making, but there will be some, and so that'll give a little bit of an update.
I have it as mass.gov/Pilgrim Memorial 2020 for the latest 2-week look ahead.
Yes. So there's people can click on that, and then there'll be information if they want to. They can either just get on the website and find it, or they can actually sign up and have an email sent directly to them.
Yeah, that's great.
So
and who's actually doing the work on the waterfront?
We have a number of contractors that are doing that, and I'm going to have to look that up.
No, that's okay. That's okay.
Yeah.
But they're used to doing work with DCR.
Right. They are, and they are prominently displayed on our sign. We have a coming soon sign that will be out there, so people can see that their names are right there.
Now, what other projects are you working on around the state other than Plymouth?
Well, we have a number of projects. So so right now, in terms of our recreation front, between that last year and this year, we have 7 spray pools that are going to be open, and kids love that, on hot days, and it'll be hot before you know it, right? It didn't seem like that this weekend. We also have another very exciting project that's around this area. So Massasoit State Park, which was a camping area, closed about a decade ago, and so we are going to reopen that. So
really?
Yes, we're going to reopen that in late August, which is actually my favorite time to camp, because it's a little bit cooler evenings, and then you get the the nice fall colors. So we're really excited about that, and I think that'll be a welcome addition to our camping portfolio. Nice. And obviously we have Miles Standish that people go camping to. So we've done a lot of improvements in places, to just interior of bathrooms and fixing up some camping areas. We have a new bathhouse that just went up at Salisbury, another one of our camping areas as well. The commissioner mentioned we have Preservation Month, so we have been busy going around the state with that, and we've added some historic curatorships to our portfolio, and that's always exciting because that lets private individuals or companies in exchange for a long-term lease put capital money into our properties, the properties that we manage on behalf of the citizens of the Commonwealth. And so that program alone has leveraged about $22 million in private investment to help us with those historic properties. So one of the new ones will be at Wachusett Mountain in the Superintendent's House. We also have some exciting things happening this weekend. We have our National Trails Day, which is something that we do every year. So that we actually have a partnership with REI for that. And so in 5 locations.
What's REI?
So REI is a retail outdoor sporting merchandiser.
Okay.
So they sell camping equipment and technical clothing, and they really try to promote an outdoor lifestyle. And so we've partnered with them for the past couple of years, and they're going to be sponsoring some trails projects for us in different locations. So Great Brook Farm, Middlesex Fells, Wampatuck, Blue Hills. And so we're really excited to get people to come outside, and then we're going to have, that'll be on June 2nd, and then we're going to celebrate the next day on June 3rd, which is our official anniversary. So we're going to do a combo of celebrating the stewardship for National Trails Day and then also celebrating our 125th anniversary. And that's going to be at North Point Park in Boston.
Nice.
And so that's just a way of saying, hey, let's get ready for the next 125 years of stewardship. The other thing that we have that's happening this Saturday is our Universal Access Fair. That is something we've been doing for 14 years. We have a great program that's a Universal Access program puts on where you can try adaptive equipment. So whether it's cycling or a sit ski or a special beach wheelchair, our program really wants to make sure that the parks are physically accessible to everyone, but also in terms of the recreational opportunities that they have. Sometimes people don't have equipment, and we can provide that equipment through our vendors. So we're going to have the vendors there. That's going to be at Artesani Park in Boston, and that's always just such a wonderful, fun-filled day for people to be able to meet other people and meet the vendors and look at all the activities that we have.
I'm glad you talked about the National Trail Days, because I know here in Plymouth and around the area, we're really trying to connect a lot of trails, and we see ecotourism as an expansion of our tourism business here.
Right.
When I was at Miles Standish State Forest recently, they were talking about the number of campers that over the years have just really increased and doubled and all that.
Right,
so it's becoming more and more of a thing to do.
That's
for
right.
people to come to places like Miles Standish, et cetera, to actually to camp and really develop the trails, and it's just a great tourism thing, so
Well,
that's terrific.
And I think that you're absolutely right in terms of the ecotourism. Gone are the days when you would just go to one place and you would just camp there for the entire week, and that's the only thing that you would do. You want to go out and you want to branch out and see the town and see the forest.
Well, I wish we had more time to talk. This is just fascinating to have you here.
Well, thank you so much.
Thank you for all you're doing on the state level, but particularly here in Plymouth, and we really appreciate that.
Well, thank you. We could never do it without you and your colleagues.
Thanks again.
Okay.
I hope you enjoyed our show today. I want to thank Dave and all the folks at PAC TV for another great show and for all they do. We'll see you next time on State Matters.